Here's what I'd like to say. There's two things. The first thing is my sympathies, my heartfelt, true sympathies go out to all the victims who are not being talked about, because obviously there are females out there. They've already shown that Vince McMahon's paid $12 million in hush money.
I think it was closer to 17, if I'm not mistaken.
Possibly, but we know
this
that
was 3.
Janelle Grant was only $3 million of this. So there's more out there. There's more. But I want to talk about the families for a second, because me having a son, that's all it takes, folks, not to be holier than thou. But when you have a wife and you have a child and you've got grandkids and what are you thinking? Laurinaitis, what are you thinking? McMahon, what are you thinking? When you commit this kind of crime, you're not just hurting very directly the victim in front of you. You have families, people that depend on you, people that look up to you, and your own personal legacy. What were you thinking? I think, hold 1 second. I think of Brock Lesnar's wife, Sable. I think of her. I think of Brock Lesnar's children. And this is the lowest hanging of the victim fruit here. I think of the Bella twins. I think of the Bella twins' mom. I think of Shane. I think of Stephanie. I think of all Shane's kids, who his grandfather is now reported, shitting on top of a sex slave to get himself off, then holding her down so someone else can rape her. I look at Stephanie and Paul's kids. And Linda. And you just sit there and go, what were you thinking? Like, it's okay, you go down. You have the entire legacy, and I'm not talking about your company. I'm talking about your family. These people who never asked for any of this are going to have to live with this forever because of you. Because of you. It's disgusting. All these men that did this, their families, their grandkids are going to have to put up with this. It is, that fact alone makes me want to cry. I want to start crying. And that's the truth, because that's wrong. This is wrong. And number two, and I'm going to throw it back to you, Dave, after this, is I think about, as much as I care about the women that this happened to and the peripheral, victims on the side of all the family members that have to deal with this, the collateral damage. Now, in the business aspect, I do think about what is going to happen to the company that, whether we like it or not, Dave, we have been invested in since we're children, the WWE. Because I can tell you for a fact that Ari Emanuel is not the happy-go-lucky warrior you see on these press conferences. I'm sure right now there is an internal investigation that CNN asked this question 2 or 3 days ago. Brilliant on them, because they haven't done much in the last 5-6 years. Said, if anyone inside Titan Towers, inside WWE, before they were bought by TKO, Endeavor, whatever, knew of any of this, why would you let Vince McMahon come back at all? So I guarantee you, Emmanuel is putting together some kind of team to go, who knew what when? Who knew what when? And even on top of that, if you are highly associated with Vince McMahon, even in a tangential way, like let's Bruce Pritchard. Bruce, you're gone, guarantee it. Anyone,
Ronda Rousey's already called him out directly. Exactly. Not for misbehavior, but just as being a puppet of Vince.
He's a puppet of Vince. He's somebody that if Vince is in jail, Bruce will run it for him. His nose is all the way up his asshole, has been for 40 years anyway. But what I'm trying to say is, even people, and I'm saying it, I don't know if it's been said publicly, but Nick Khan, Triple H, they're going to be a full investigation of who knew what, who's still in any way connected with Vince McMahon. Get him out of there. I don't even care if they didn't know. They're too closely associated with the McMahon name. So there has been talk, oh, Stephanie might come back. Maybe. I don't know. But I can tell you from the more I've researched about Emmanuel, the more he's a demon with business. He's a demon and will not give two shits who he's got to cut out of the body to make sure no cancer occurs going forward. So I'm going to throw it back to you, Dave. But you guys can read all the disgusting, brave shit. You can read it all. It's horrible, horrible. But I'll tell you this. My sympathies are of course, with the women who've been victimized, but all of these families of all of these men who are absolutely going to suffer forever. And also, my extreme interest in being so, involved in both with my being entertained by and just invested in wrestling. What's going to happen to the inner workings of WWE, particularly now with everything that went down last week in a good way, that of course Triple H is focusing on the positive. So I'm going to throw it back to you because that's even a lot more stuff than probably you even said, but that's where my thinking is on this.
Well, I'll definitely get to the post-Royal Rumble press conference and Triple H, Paul Levesque responding or not responding to questions momentarily. The first thing that I was going to say a moment ago, to give context for those that don't know, John Laurinaitis, he was the head of talent relations for WWE for a while, and then Vince brought him back to talent relations, even though he had up in that role plenty of times before, and then had put this lady in his department after moving her from legal. So there's that. But also what Jason had kind of referenced, he had mentioned the Bella twins, Nikki and Brie, the Garcia twins, now that they're outside of WWE. Their mother is, I forget how many years ago, but married John Laurinaitis. So John Laurinaitis is their father-in-law. And a lot of what Laurinaitis is said to have done in this situation was happening while their mother, his wife, was undergoing treatments for brain cancer, to just make this even more sleazy on all accounts. So the Bellas or the Garcias, however you want to call them, they put out a statement a couple days ago. They didn't really name anybody specifically, but they basically said that they were disgusted about what they had heard and that they were, it basically was the best you could expect under the situation. Like I have no shade to throw in their direction whatsoever.
Me neither.
Where I do have shade to throw is Paul Levesque, because he had to deal with the world's most predictable emergency at the Royal Rumble press conference that they decided they were still going to hold after the event, where, I mean, I don't know if it was him. I don't know if it was his PR people. I don't know if it was Endeavor's PR people. I don't know who but this man was not properly prepped, or he made a judgment call that was in the wrong. He was asked, and you had your usual softballs, like, would you say this generation is the best of wrestling since the Attitude Era? Like, all of you that in this scenario took your time to ask that type of question in this scenario, like, that was just embarrassing. But you did have some people in the room. I know one gentleman was from Fightful. There's another guy, I think, from WrestleNomics, that had asked some legitimate questions about the McMahon situation. And what Triple H decided to do in both cases was, he stated, and I'm not quoting directly, but something to the effect of, I want to focus on the positives. It has been a great week for this company. He said that, I think, more than once. It has been a great week for this company. And now I'm, this is Dave talking, but our, chairman of the board or whatever just stepped down because of sex torture, and, multiple executives and former executives accused of rape. And that covers $3 million of possibly like $27 million of hush money payments. And there's more stuff that has not come out yet. Yeah, it's been a great week for this company. Let's put it in that because the Netflix deal went through. Look at all this money we made. Look at how wonderful this week has been. And I mean, yeah, that comment, I think, absolutely encapsulated WWE's culture. It encapsulated United States culture. It encapsulated capitalism culture, all in one sentence. Well done, Paul. What I would have expected, because I would not have expected Triple H to give a soliloquy about his father-in-law, and about when there's an ongoing lawsuit and all that. What I was expecting, and what I actually would have, given his position, accepted, is if he had come out in the beginning of this press conference, if they're going to hold one, and said something to the effect of, we are obviously well aware of the story in the Wall Street Journal and the current lawsuit against Vince McMahon and other people that have been associated with WWE. Due to the ongoing legal nature and out of respect for everyone involved, I am not able to discuss any of those allegations at this time. If anybody asks any questions of that type, I will be forced to say no comment. But that will be my response this evening, and we're doing an investigation, and my heart goes out to anyone who's been harmed by the situation. Something to that effect. I would have been okay with that, given the circumstances. He didn't do that. No, he decided to say what a great week for the company this was. So the question becomes, what did people know and when did they know it?